The black sky above the damaged ship looked endless. Stars flickered like distant candles, cold and silent. The old Alliance vessel Helix Dawn floated in that silence, half broken and forgotten. Its hull was burned, engines dead, and life support was failing. Inside the dim bridge, red warning lights blinked slowly. Only a few people were still alive. Lieutenant Mara Ely sat at the cracked communication console, her fingers shaking as she tried again to send a message. The screen showed one line, SOS, emergency assistance requested. She pressed send. The blue light blinked once, then again. The signal vanished into the darkness of space. Come on, she whispered, her voice small in the empty room. Someone please answer. Behind her, Ensign Farah coughed softly. She was young, maybe 22, with short dark hair and tired eyes. Any response yet, Lieutenant? Mara shook her head. Nothing. The communication array's half fried. I had to use the old Terran distress code. It's the only format that still works. Farah frowned. Terran, as in human era code? That's ancient. I know, Mara said quietly. But it's better than nothing. The power flickered again. Sparks fell from a burnt panel. Every few minutes, a deep creak echoed through the ship, metal twisting under pressure. Mara didn't show it, but fear had begun to settle inside her. The Karth Dominion's ambush had come out of nowhere. They had no chance to fight back. Now their distress call was their last hope. What she didn't know was that her signal was not going where she thought, far away, beyond known Alliance space. Hidden behind red dust clouds and storms, a dark planet turned slowly. Its name was Erebus IV. It was called a death world, a place where no normal species could live. The air was thick with iron dust. The gravity crushed metal. The storms could tear through solid rock, but to one species, it was home. Humans. A century ago, after the Great Peace Accords, humanity had withdrawn from the Galactic Alliance. They were seen as too dangerous, too unpredictable. Their soldiers were called Deathworlders, beings who could survive poisons, radiation, pain, and fear like no one else. Most believed they had disappeared, hiding deep in space, never to be seen again. But on Erebus IV, deep under the red storm clouds, a listening post still worked. Inside the underground command center, 5 humans sat in silence watching flickering screens. It was late and the only sound was the hum of the machines. Suddenly one of the screens turned bright blue. "Captain," shouted the young technician. "We have a signal. Long-range distress code." Captain Reese Calder, a tall man with silver in his beard and hard eyes, looked up from his desk. "Show me." The screen displayed old text, jagged letters, half-broken data. But one thing was clear. It was a Terran distress format. Reese frowned. "That's impossible. No one's used that code for 100 years. "It's real, sir," the technician said. "Origin, Alliance territory. Coordinates incoming." The room went quiet. Every officer turned toward the captain. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Reese whispered, "That code means a human is calling for help." Commander Vale, his second-in-command, stepped forward. "Sir, it could be a trap. The Alliance doesn't use our codes anymore." Reese stared at the blinking blue light on the console. His voice dropped low. "Maybe, but if there's even one human out there, we don't ignore it." He turned sharply. "Wake the crews. Warm up the jump drives. We move now." Back on the Helix Dawn, Mara's small crew was losing hope. The air had grown cold. The heating units had stopped. Farah rubbed her hands together, her breath fogging in the chill. "Do you think anyone heard us?" she asked softly. Mara gave a weak smile. Someone always does. But deep down she wasn't sure. She stood near the window, staring at the stars. There was something peaceful about the silence, until she saw a small flash in the distance. At first she thought it was a dying sensor. Then another flash appeared, and another. Her heart began to race. "Farah. Look." Farah pressed her face to the glass. "That's not debris. Space bent." A tear of blue light opened in the darkness like someone slicing through reality itself. Then a shape appeared, massive, black, and sharp like a blade. Then another, and another. Dozens of ships emerged from the rift, huge armored vessels, their hulls marked with a white hand symbol. It looked ancient, worn by time. Farah's mouth fell open. "What are they?" Mara didn't move. Her voice trembled. "I think those are human ships," the comm unit cracked to life. A deep voice filled the room, steady, calm, and commanding. Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Reese Calder of Erebus Response Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold position, Farah gasped. Erebus, as in the Deathworlders? Mara could hardly breathe. That name had been a myth, a story told by cadets about the old human fleets that once terrified the galaxy. She never believed it. Now they were here. On the flagship Vigilant Storm, Captain Reese stood at the center of the bridge, arms crossed. The image of the damaged Alliance ship hovered before him. Status? He asked. Small crew, heavy damage, Commander Vale replied. Looks like they were hit by Dominion raiders. No weapons active. They're not a threat. Reese nodded slowly. Any life signs? 5. He turned toward the helm. Bring us alongside. Prep medical teams. I want survivors on board within 10 minutes. The crew moved instantly. None of them questioned the order. The old code meant something to every human soldier. It was a promise. If one of their own called for help, they answered no matter what. The fleet moved in formation. Their engines hummed softly, no wasted sound. Their armor was scarred but shining under the distant stars. These ships had not been seen in a century, but they looked as ready as ever. Reese stared at the small vessel on the screen. Alliance ship or not, he said quietly. Someone out there still remembers us. Commander Vale smiled faintly. Do you think the galaxy's ready to see us again? Reese looked at the blinking SOS code still glowing on the monitor. Ready or not, he said, they called. And we're coming. Back on Helix Dawn, the bridge lights flickered once more. The computer spoke softly. Incoming docking request. Mara exhaled, her body shaking with relief. For the first time in days, she felt hope. She didn't realize what her signal had truly done. Far beyond her small ship, every listening post on Erebus had reactivated. The old human fleet, hidden, waiting, and silent for generations, was now awake. And the galaxy, once sure that Deathworlders were gone forever, was about to remember what it meant when humans answered a call for help. The docking clamps locked onto the Helix Dawn with a metallic thud that echoed through the silent corridors. Lieutenant Mara Ailey stood near the airlock, her pulse racing. Farah clutched her arm tightly, whispering, Are we sure this is safe? Mara didn't answer. She wasn't sure of anything. The strange fleet outside didn't match any known records. Its ships were dark, angular, and covered in markings she didn't recognize, and except one. The white hand symbol. It looked human. Old human, the airlock hissed. Cold mist filled the room as the outer doors opened. Heavy boots clanged against the metal floor. The sound was slow and powerful, as if gravity itself bowed to whoever walked through. 3 figures stepped inside. They wore black combat armor, thick and rough from years of use. The helmets covered their faces completely, with a single red stripe down the middle. Their movements were calm. No fear, no hesitation. The one in front raised a gloved hand and spoke through a voice amplifier. Identify yourself, Mara swallowed hard. Lieutenant Mara Ely, Alliance vessel Helix Dawn. We sent an SOS. Our ship was attacked. We didn't mean to use that code, the soldier finished for her. His voice was low and steady. We know. He reached up and removed his helmet. His hair was dark with streaks of gray, his face marked with deep lines and scars. His eyes, however, were sharp, alive with something old and powerful. I'm Captain Reese Calder, he said simply. Erebus Response Fleet. Mara's breath caught. Erebus is real? Reese looked around the damaged room, scanning the broken panels and fading lights. Real enough. Let's get you out of here. Within minutes, medics in dark gray suits moved through the ship, checking survivors. They worked fast and quietly, using old human tech, strong, practical, and reliable. Farah watched in disbelief as one medic repaired a life support node with just a small toolkit. These people, she whispered, they're like legends. One of the medics smiled faintly through his visor. Legends don't fix oxygen filters, he said. Soon, the survivors were escorted through the docking tunnel to the massive flagship Vigilant Storm. The moment Mara stepped aboard, she felt it. The hum of power, the deep, quiet strength of a ship built for survival. The air smelled clean, the floors polished metal. Every soldier she passed moved with silent discipline. Captain Reese led her to the command deck. The wide window ahead showed space stretched in all directions, dotted with the black shapes of other Erebus ships. Sit, he said, motioning to a chair. Mara sat slowly. Captain, why did you answer our signal? I used an old format. It wasn't even meant for your kind of system. Reese looked at her, expression calm but distant. That code means only one thing, a human in danger. We don't ignore it, Mara hesitated. But humans left the Alliance generations ago. No one's heard from your people since the war. Reese folded his arms. We didn't leave. We were asked to stay away. The galaxy wanted peace, not reminders of what we are. What you are? Mara asked softly. He turned to the window. Deathworlders. Survivors of the harshest planet known. The others couldn't understand us, and our strength scared them. So we built our own world and watched. Mara tried to imagine it. An entire civilization living quietly in the shadows, waiting. Then why come back now? Reese looked over his shoulder. Because you called. Outside, the Erebus fleet repositioned. Drones spread out to scan the area. One of them detected movement. A faint energy signature behind a nearby asteroid belt. Commander Vale turned from his console. Captain, we've got activity. Dominion ships. Looks like the same group that attacked the Helix Dawn. How many? Reese asked. 4 cruisers, maybe more. They're charging weapons. Mara stood quickly. You should go. They'll attack the moment they detect you. Reese didn't move. His calm voice carried across the deck. They already have. He gave a single nod to Vale. All ships. Defensive formation Delta. Target the lead cruiser. A quiet, yes sir, filled the room. Then space exploded into light. The Erebus fleet moved like a living organism. Fast, silent, and precise. No wasted motion. Their ships cut through space like blades, dark against the fire of enemy plasma. The Dominion vessels opened fire first, red beams slicing through the void. But the Deathworlders didn't run. They countered with heavy kinetic slugs, projectiles so massive they shook Mara's seat when they launched. The sound was deep, almost like thunder. One shot hit the nearest Dominion cruiser, piercing its shields as if they were paper. The alien ship burst into a bright sphere of orange light, then broke apart. Mara watched, speechless. She had seen space battles before, chaotic, messy, full of shouting and panic. But this was something else. The humans fought like they had done it 1,000 times before. No noise, no wasted energy, just focus. In less than 5 minutes, the battle was over. The remaining Dominion ships jumped away, their engines flaring white as they fled. The Erebus fleet didn't chase them. They simply held formation, calm and silent. Area clear, Vale reported. Reese gave a small nod. Recover debris. Gather any survivors for questioning. Then set course for Alliance space. Mara blinked. Alliance space? Why? He looked at her. Because someone needs to explain why Dominion raiders are attacking unarmed vessels again. And the Alliance owes us a few answers. Later, in the quiet of the medbay, Mara sat beside Farah, who was resting after treatment. Through the clear glass wall, she could see the Erebus crew moving. Calm, strong, united. There was something comforting in their presence, yet something haunting too. When Reese entered, Mara stood. Captain, your people. They're different, stronger, quieter. What keeps them going? He paused before answering. Memory, he said simply. We remember every colony that fell, every ally that turned away. Every time someone said humanity was too dangerous to trust, Mara's eyes softened. And yet you still came to help. Reese smiled faintly, a tired, knowing smile. That's what we do. Even when the galaxy forgets us, we don't forget them. For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the stars. Outside, the fleet moved steadily toward the border, toward a galaxy that had long believed Deathworlders were gone forever. But they were coming back. And this time, the stars themselves might tremble. The Erebus fleet moved through the dark emptiness of space like silent giants. The ships glowed faintly under the starlight, their armor reflecting silver-blue lines. Inside the flagship Vigilant Storm, Captain Reese Calder stood before the main display, watching as the distant lights of Alliance space grew closer. It had been 100 years since any human vessel had crossed that border. For decades, they had stayed hidden, surviving quietly on their Deathworld home. But now the galaxy would see them again, not through rumors or fear, but through action. Lieutenant Mara Ely stood beside him, still wearing her worn-out Alliance uniform. She felt small among the crew of these strong, calm humans. They moved like soldiers from another time, efficient, silent, and confident. Reese glanced at her. You look nervous, Mara gave a weak smile. The last time anyone saw an Erebus ship, it was during the peace talks. When the galaxy voted to isolate Earth's people. Rhys nodded slowly. Yes, the galaxy wanted peace without the ones who made it possible. There was no anger in his tone, only a quiet truth. He turned back to the display. Open a channel. Standard Alliance frequency. The officer at the console hesitated. Sir, that could trigger an automatic defense response. Rhys's lips curved slightly. Let them respond. The signal went out. A simple transmission with one line of text. This is Captain Rhys Calder, Erebus Response Fleet, returning your people. On the border world of Ardent Station, an alarm rang across the control deck. Officers rushed to their posts, staring at their screens in disbelief. A large fleet had just emerged from deep space. The sensor readouts showed strange energy levels, old Terran design unmatched by modern tech. Identify, shouted Commander Thane, the station officer. Who are they? A young operator stammered. Sir, they're broadcasting a human code, one that hasn't been used in over a century. Thane frowned. That can't be right. Earth's fleets were dismantled after the peace accords. Then someone forgot to tell them. The operator muttered. The main screen lit up. The face of Captain Rhys appeared, calm, serious, his eyes sharp like polished steel. This is Captain Rhys Calder, he said firmly. We received a distress call from an Alliance ship and rescued its survivors, requesting permission to return them. Tyne stared at him in silence for several seconds. Then he whispered, You're from Erebus? Rhys nodded once. The control room went quiet. Everyone had heard the name. Some thought it was a myth. Others thought it was a curse. The world of humans who lived where no one else could. The Deathworlders. Permission granted, Tyne said finally. And, welcome back, Captain. Hours later, the Vigilant Storm docked beside Ardent Station. Crowds of curious officers and civilians filled the observation decks. Everyone wanted to see the legendary humans. When the airlock opened, Rhys stepped through first, followed by Mara and a small escort team. The difference between them and the station guards was clear. The Erebus crew moved with quiet confidence. No fear, no arrogance, only discipline. An Alliance ambassador approached nervously. Captain Calder, on behalf of the Galactic Alliance, Rhys raised a hand politely. Save the speeches. I'm here for answers. Answers? The ambassador asked carefully. Yes, Rhys said. One of your ships was attacked by Dominion raiders. The crew almost died. We destroyed the raiders. But I want to know why Dominion fleets are operating so close to your borders. The ambassador shifted uncomfortably. There have been tensions, trade disputes. We didn't want to start another war. Rhys's eyes hardened. So you ignored their attacks and let your own people die? The man looked down. Around them, the room was silent. Even Mara could feel the weight of his words. You've forgotten what peace costs, Rhys said quietly. You've forgotten how many of our kind died so you could live without fear. The ambassador's voice trembled. We thought your people didn't want to be involved anymore. Rhys looked him straight in the eye. We didn't want control. We wanted respect. Meanwhile, word of the Erebus fleet's return spread like fire across the galaxy. News channels and holonets buzzed with headlines. The Deathworlders are back. Human fleet appears after a century of silence. Old myths walk the stars again. On distant worlds, people argued, some afraid, others filled with curiosity. To many young species, humanity was only a story told in school. A story about the wild. Dangerous beings who once fought wars the size of planets and then vanished. Now, they had returned. Back on Ardent Station, Mara stood near a wide observation window. She looked out at the Erebus fleet, still hanging in orbit like silent guardians. Farah joined her, smiling weakly. They're not what I expected, Farah said softly. They're calm, Mara nodded. They've seen too much to need words. They just do what has to be done. Behind them, Rhys entered the room quietly. We'll be leaving soon, he said. Mara turned. Leaving? Where will you go? Back to Erebus, he said. We don't belong here anymore. You saved us, Mara said quickly. You could help the Alliance again. We need people like you. Rhys looked at her with a faint smile. You don't need us. You just need to remember what it means to stand for something. He paused, his eyes softening. But if you ever need us again, you know how to call. Moments later, the Erebus fleet began to pull away. The stars reflected on their black hulls like silver dust. One by one, their engines lit up bright as suns. The people on Arden Station watched in silence. Some saluted. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared, unable to believe what they were seeing. As the ships vanished into the blue light of hyperspace, Commander Thane turned to his officers. "You all saw that?" "Yes, sir," one replied quietly. "Then remember it," Thane said, "because history just started breathing again." Far across the stars, the vigilant storm entered the calm shadow of Erebus IV. Its clouds glowed red from the sun's light. Beneath them, the great cities of humanity stood tall, shining towers built to survive the storms. Reese stood alone on the bridge, watching his world appear in the distance. Commander Vale walked in behind him. "They'll be talking about this for centuries," he said. Reese gave a quiet laugh. "Let them talk. We didn't come for glory." "Then why did we come?" Vale asked. Reese turned to the window, his expression calm and proud. "Because someone cried for help. And humans always answer." That night, Mara sat in her quarters aboard the small shuttle the Erebus fleet had given her. Through the window, she could still see the red glow of their world fading behind her. She whispered softly, "Thank you." She didn't know if they could hear her. But she knew one thing for sure. Humanity had never been gone. They had just been waiting for the right moment to remind the galaxy who they were. And now every star would remember.